The small town of Greystone had always been quiet, nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. But within that forest, the Whispering Woods, there was a darker, older secret that everyone knew but rarely spoke of. The woods had claimed lives over the centuries, and those who ventured in often never returned. It was the eve of Halloween, and three friends, Tom, Sarah, and Jake, decided to test their bravery by spending the night in the Whispering Woods. They gathered their gear, flashlights, and a camera, determined to document their adventure. As they entered the woods, an eerie stillness enveloped them. The air was heavy, the trees seemed to loom closer, and the path quickly disappeared into the underbrush. The deeper they went, the more they felt as though they were being watched. Whispers seemed to float through the trees, just beyond the range of their hearing. "Did you hear that?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "It's just the wind," Jake replied, though he didn't sound convinced. After walking for what felt like hours, they found a small clearing and set up camp. The sun had set, and the woods were now cloaked in darkness. They lit a small fire and sat around it, trying to shake off the growing sense of unease. Tom decided to lighten the mood by telling ghost stories, but each tale only seemed to make the shadows around them darker and the whispers louder. Finally, Jake, frustrated by the oppressive atmosphere, stood up and shouted, "There's nothing here, it's just a stupid legend." As if in response, the fire suddenly went out, plunging them into pitch blackness. Their flashlights flickered to life, revealing a thick fog that had silently crept into the clearing. The whispers grew louder, more distinct, as if surrounding them. "Let's get out of here," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. They quickly packed up their gear and tried to retrace their steps, but the fog had transformed the woods into a labyrinth of identical trees and tangled roots. Every direction looked the same, and the whispers seemed to be guiding them deeper into the forest. Tom's flashlight suddenly died, and he cursed under his breath. "Stay close," he said, his voice barely audible over the incessant whispers. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. It was impossible to tell. The whispers grew louder, now clearly forming words. "Turn back. Leave. Too late." Panic set in as they realized they were hopelessly lost. Sarah tripped over a root and fell, her flashlight rolling away. As she scrambled to her feet, she saw something in the fog, a figure, pale and translucent, watching them. "Run!" she screamed, and they bolted through the woods, branches clawing at their clothes and faces. The whispers turned into a cacophony of screams, and the figures multiplied, surrounding them, hurting them. Jake, lagging behind, felt a cold hand grasp his ankle and yank him to the ground. He screamed, but his friends were too far ahead to hear. The last thing he saw was a ghostly face, twisted in pain and anger before everything went black. Tom and Sarah didn't stop running until they burst out of the woods, collapsing on the ground, gasping for breath. They looked around, but Jake was nowhere to be seen. They returned to Greystone, shaken and terrified. They told their story, but no one believed them. Jake was declared missing, yet another victim of the Whispering Woods. Years passed, and Tom and Sarah moved away, trying to forget that night. But the whispers never left them. They heard them in their dreams, in the rustling of leaves, in the quiet moments of their lives. The woods had marked them, and they knew that one day they would be called back to join Jake and the others, lost forever in the Whispering Woods. 20 years later, on another Halloween Eve, Tom and Sarah, now married with children, received an unexpected visitor. It was Ethan, their oldest son, along with his friends, Clara and Ben. They were excited, bubbling over with talk of a daring Halloween adventure they had planned. Tom's heart sank as he listened. "Mom, Dad, we're going to spend the night in the Whispering Woods," Ethan announced, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "No, absolutely not," Tom and Sarah shouted in unison, their faces pale. The memories of that horrific night came flooding back, the whispers still echoing in their minds. "Why not? It's just a story to scare kids. We want to see if there's any truth to it," Ethan argued, oblivious to the terror in his parents' eyes. Tom and Sarah exchanged a look, realizing they had never told Ethan the real story. The legends had persisted, twisted and turned over the years, but they had tried to protect their children from the truth. "You don't understand, Ethan," Sarah said softly. "Those woods are dangerous. People have disappeared, including our friend Jake." "Come on, Mom. That was ages ago. We'll be careful," Ethan reassured them, mistaking their fear for overprotectiveness. "Please, Ethan, listen to us," Tom pleaded. "Those woods, they're alive in a way you can't imagine. They whisper, they lure you deeper, and once you're in, it's almost impossible to get out." But Ethan was determined, and no amount of pleading could sway him. In the end, Tom and Sarah had no choice but to let him go, hoping against hope that the woods had forgotten them. That night, as Ethan and his friends ventured into the Whispering Woods, Tom and Sarah sat by the fireplace, anxiously waiting. Hours passed, and the familiar whispers began to fill their home. Sarah clutched Tom's hand, tears streaming down her face. "We should have stopped them," she sobbed. "What if they never come back?" "We'll find them," Tom said with determination. "We won't let the woods take them." As dawn approached and there was still no sign of the children, Tom and Sarah grabbed their old flashlights and set out towards the Whispering Woods. The forest seemed to welcome them back, the whispers growing louder with every step they took. "Ethan! Clara! Ben!" they called out, their voices echoing through the trees. Suddenly, they heard faint cries for help. Following the sound, they stumbled upon the clearing where they had camped all those years ago. There, huddled together and trembling with fear, were Ethan and his friends. "We couldn't find our way out," Ethan cried. "The whispers, they were everywhere." Tom and Sarah embraced their son, relief flooding over them. "Let's get out of here," Tom said firmly, leading the way. As they made their way back to Greystone, the whispers seemed to follow them, growing fainter with each step. But Tom and Sarah knew that the Whispering Woods had let them go for now, only to claim more souls another day. Back home, they made Ethan promise never to return to the woods. He nodded, his face pale with fear. The Whispering Woods had taken many lives and would continue to do so. But Tom and Sarah had been given a second chance. They vowed to never let the woods take anyone they loved again. Years later, as they grew old and gray, Tom and Sarah shared their story with their grandchildren, warning them of the dangers that lay within the Whispering Woods. The forest remained dark and foreboding, a constant reminder of the nightmarish events that had transpired. And though the whispers never truly left them, Tom and Sarah found solace in knowing they had saved their family from the wood's grasp. But the Whispering Woods still waited, patient and hungry, for the next souls brave or foolish enough to venture into its depths, lured by the whispers that echoed through the trees.